The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
After you responded and said you were up, Ms. Poague sent another message. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and that's the message that's at the top of page 114 of that printout.
Yes, sir.
What does that message say?
It says, why do I feel anger towards JD? Like earlier when we were in bed and JD kept touching Jay's face, I almost cried.
Explosive text messages from former pageant queen Trinity Poague. They're read into the testimony through her former roommate. So could these messages sink the case for the defendant? Plus, what really happened to baby JD? A medical doctor is joining us on the program to break down the injuries that led to the 18-month-old's death. And a doctor who sold actor Matthew Perry ketamine before his death is sentenced. Plus, the ketamine queen's sentence is coming up soon. So we're talking about whether this is justice for the beloved Friends star. And we're tracking two big trials for Trinity Poague and Brian Walsh. With so many bad facts against them both, we're wondering, will these two be taking the stand? It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Welcome to Opening Statements, my friends. It is Thursday morning, and we are so great to have you, or so grateful to have you here. I'm Julie Grant, and we got a great show planned for you. We're going to start it off as we always do. Have you grab that cup of coffee or tea, or maybe you're having hot water with lemon this morning, whatever you like. It's time for my opening statement. Who's the moron now? The doctor who illegally sold actor Matthew Perry ketamine and called him a moron in text messages is now off to his new home in prison. Dr. Salvador Plasencia will be spending the next 30 months locked up in federal prison because he illegally distributed ketamine to Matthew Perry, who we know died from an accidental overdose in September of 2023. I say kudos to the federal government for holding this doctor responsible. You know, what makes this kind of drug dealing even worse than what we typically see on the street, my friends, is that this defendant took an oath to care for people. When he became a physician, he made a promise to uphold that oath, and he behaved disgracefully. He not only violated his oath, but he also took advantage of a man who was sadly suffering from addiction. Shame on him. He knew better. Instead, he was greedy. He was charging Matthew Perry $2,000 per vial that he paid $12 for. He said in a text message, quote, "I wonder how much this moron will pay." Well, now that Dr. Plasencia traded in his medical practice, his reputation, and all his credibility for a spot in the big house, I think we all know who turned out to be the real moron in this story. May God comfort those closest to Matthew Perry as they continue mourning his death. And may this case serve as a lesson to anybody who's looking to take advantage of someone who's suffering from addiction. That's my opening statement on this Thursday morning. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
Inside of bag one was a pair of green boots, a black jacket with red-brown stains, and a bracelet inside of the pocket. There was a black purse with red-brown stains, a black wallet, and a pair of headphones inside of a case, as well as a pair of socks. There was a pair of Volkswagen keys as well.
What was discovered inside of bag 4?
A pair of gray slippers with red-brown stains, a pair of dark gray slippers with red-brown stains and trace materials, as well as apparent hairs with red-brown stains.
We got testimony resuming this morning in the murder trial of Brian Walsh. The man who is having an affair with his wife, Anna Walsh, could be taking the stand today. Court's going to start up at 9 a.m. Eastern time. We'll go there live together when it does. In Florida, we've got the Alexander brothers. They've got a status conference set for 10 a.m. Eastern time. Twins, Alon and Oren, and their older brother, Tal, are all accused of sexually assaulting women. And in Georgia, we've got testimony resuming in our next hour for former pageant queen Trinity Poague. And that is your top story, as the defendant's former suite mate presented explosive testimony as a state's witness. Paris Permont was the fourth witness of the day, but might have delivered the most damaging testimony overall, as prosecutors presented text messages exchanged between the two roommates from August 17th of 2023, just months before baby JD was found unresponsive in that dorm room.
After you responded and said you were up, Ms. Poague sent another message. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and that's the message that's at the top of page 114 of that printout.
Yes, sir.
What does that message say?
It says, why do I feel anger towards JD? Like earlier when we were in bed and JD kept touching Jay's face, I almost cried.
Your response to that, which came, again, just a few seconds later, and this is at the bottom of page 113.
Okay.
Your response to that was what?
What do you mean, like you feel anger towards JD, question mark?
And then her reply to you a minute later, what was what?
Like, I don't know, not jealousy, but like I want to love him, but instead of loving, I just feel like angry, like want to punch him. LMFAO, OMG, that sounds so bad.
So let's talk more about this case and those text messages. What did you think of them? Share with us your thoughts on social media right now. Let me bring in our power panel. In the studio with me, what a treat to have Tommy Pope here. And joining us remotely, attorney Michael J. Brown and Dr. Sue Kornbluth. Good morning to you all. Morning. All right, so let's talk about this roommate. What did she do for the case for the state of Georgia? Tommy Pope, our former prosecutor, would you start us off, please?
Julie, I think really she confirmed what I'd been thinking. You know, so you've got a baby that's not yours. You've got a guy that you wish you had. And so I think when she looked at that child, she saw the other woman. And I think that's what this anger is transposed. I mean, how do you blame a child? I think she blames the child because the child's not her child. And so I think that's what this fleshes out. I think these communications show that. And I think that's why she's going to get convicted.
Oh, that's a good thought. Dr. Sue, let's go a step further. Tell me, psychologically, does that make some sense that she may harbor some resentment and take it out on the baby?
Yes, but I don't think that it's about another woman. I think it's about her being replaced by this child, and that she craves so much attention from this boyfriend because she probably did not get it from her parents or whomever didn't give it to her growing up. And she wants to be number one to somebody, and she's not. And so she's jealous of that connection between the two of them, and possibly wants to get rid of the baby so that she can have him all to herself.
Ooh, Dr. Sue, you think she was plotting this? That's interesting. Let me play another clip. This is where the roommate's reading a message that the pageant queen sent to her boyfriend, little JD's dad.
I've told you from the beginning that I would always try to love JD is the same as mine, but since me and you have gotten serious, every time I see him, I just get angry at the world, and I just have a gut feeling of anger. I don't know what it is. Maybe because I'm so young, and I know if I am committed to you, then I'm committed to him. You're 24 and I'm 18, and I know that the age difference isn't much, but you have a kid and you have more responsibilities than just spoiling me. I don't want to be your second baby mama. I want it to be your first, but that won't ever happen, and I don't think that I can continue to be in a relationship with you and have that in the back of my mind.
Oh, she wants to be baby mama number one, but that is an impossibility. Michael J. Brown, this defense team had to have been cringing a little bit yesterday. Not a good day for the defense, but overall, how concerned should they be, Michael?
Good morning, everybody. I think they should be very concerned, Julie. That is a huge piece of evidence, very devastating for the defense. You know, the prosecution is pointing the finger at her, and she, the defense, is pointing the finger at the father. So there's really only two people that could be responsible for the death of this child. But those text messages and statements really just show the future of what is about to come. And those are really devastating text messages because it shows the intent, it shows the motive. You don't have to prove motive, as we know, but it goes a huge, long way for the jury to say, hey, She's one of two people that could have done this, and look at what she is saying immediately before the actual death of this child. Devastating evidence, Julie.
Great points, Michael. I have another clip here. This is regarding the issue of, this is so sad, the vomit that was on little JD's jacket and why it wasn't cleaned up. Let's take a listen to what Dad said.
So when you were getting in the car, when you were in the car, he threw up on you. Did anybody ask you to take the jacket so they could test to see if the child threw up on your jacket?
No.
If they had, would you have turned it over to them?
Yes, I still have it also.
Where is it?
At my house.
Has it ever been cleaned?
No.
Why?
Because that's the last thing I got to remember of.
It's just so devastating what's happened to this little baby. I feel like the baby didn't stand a chance. Tommy Pope, let's talk a little bit about that. So little baby JD is born, and if you're sitting at home right now wondering, oh, is it JD, is it Jackson, is it Romeo? Guess what? This baby had so many different names as he was passed around all over the place. Legal name Romeo Angeles. Mom had him, then goes off to Mexico. Dad's raising him. Dad thinks his name is Jackson. He's passing him off to his sister because he's working, and to miscongeniality as well, because he's busy working, trying to provide for the child and for his other family members, as I understand it. Tommy, for anybody looking at this thing, my gosh, like, what, if anything, could have been done to save that baby? It's angering, isn't it, when you see there were other adults in this baby's life, but it seems that nobody was there 100% of the time caring for him.
I think, Julie, that's the real reality of what we're dealing with in society now, and not just socioeconomically. Unfortunately, I went through a divorce at a younger age, and I always remember when he was talking about the baby getting sick, I wanted people to know I had a child, as I started trying to date again. And my wife, Kim, Logan got sick, and Kim cleaned it up. It was the opposite end of the spectrum, and I said, she's a keeper, from the beginning. So it's difficult. We have that. Back then, my sister helped with my 2-year-old, but I think it's a reflection. I will say, from hearing the dad, that he's kept that jacket in that condition. As Michael was saying, you're down to 2 people, and between the text messages and that, I don't think it points much toward him, and I think it lands in her lap again.
And you were an investigator, Tommy, too. So for anybody wondering, was this guy properly vetted? I think we can see that he was. It's just so sad. Dr. Sue, let me talk a little bit more about it. Let's get in the mind of Trinity Poague. I think that's what so many people are wondering. She looks so confident on the stage. We see her, yesterday we had Susan Constantine on, and we talked about how this woman is really exuding a lot of confidence and projecting something, and then the courtroom we see something very different. Tell me, do you think that was there an attention problem that maybe she has? I'm curious what you think of Trinity Poague, and if that was something that was at the forefront of her mind all the time.
I mean, I think, Julie, when you're in pageants, you are drawing attention to yourself, but you're also wearing a mask. And underneath that mask and all the makeup and all the glitz and the glamour is a lot of times a very insecure young woman. And I think that's what we have here. And she's a very, to me, insecure and immature young lady. I don't know what's at the surface, but I kind of feel like in my gut, she carries a lot of rage. I'm not sure what that rage is towards, but I believe that rage had built up inside of her, and it was taken out on this child. That is what I assume. That's my opinion about this. I don't know if that is true, but when you do have that much attention on you from a pageant or whatever it is, and then it's taken away, you crave it again more and more. And when it's not on you, you can become enraged. And I think that's what happened here. She became enraged in this situation as well. I'd love to go back into her history, her family history, and see what happened here and where she was given attention and where she wasn't. the big factor here, I believe.
Excellent analysis, Dr. Sue. Really, really insightful. Thank you so much. This has been a great discussion. We'll leave it here for now, just for time's sake, but we're going to follow this case throughout the day. Our power panel staying with us. Coming up, we're going to have more on the case against Trinity Poague. We're digging into the baby's injuries. I want to know what happened to this beautiful baby. I know you do too. Stay with me. We've got a medical expert joining us live. Plus,
these defendants took advantage of Mr. Perry's addiction issues to enrich themselves. These defendants were more interested in profiting off Mr. Perry than caring for his well-being.
And we have new developments in the death of beloved actor Matthew Perry. That's what's trending in true crime. A doctor's behind bars and the ketamine queen has yet to be sentenced. We'll talk about whether this is justice for the Friends star.
The Court TV podcast will return.
As a doctor, defendant Placentia knew full well the danger of what he was doing. In fact, on one occasion, he injected Mr. Perry with ketamine, and he saw Mr. Perry freeze up and his blood pressure spike. Despite that, he left additional vials of ketamine for defendant Iwamasa to administer to Mr. Perry. Of course, defendant Iwamasa had no medical training to speak of.
The death of Friends star Matthew Perry is what's trending in true crime this morning, as a doctor who sold him ketamine illegally prior to his overdose is now off to prison. The judge handed down the sentence of 2.5 years for Dr. Salvador Placencia in a federal courtroom on Wednesday in California. The doctor pleaded guilty to distributing ketamine to the actor weeks before his accidental overdose death. The judge emphasized that Placencia didn't provide the ketamine that killed Perry, but told him, quote, "You and others helped Mr. Perry on the road to such an ending by continuing to feed his ketamine addiction." So we're asking, is a 2+ year sentence for Perry's death justice when it comes to this doctor defendant? Should he have gotten more time? Let's bring in our legal eagles in the studio. Attorney Tommy Pope, and joining me remotely, Attorney Michael J. Brown. All right, Michael, what do you say? Is this fair for the doctor? Why or why not, please?
I do, Julie, and I'll tell you, because remember, they keep attributing this to the death of Matthew Perry, but you got to remember, what he sold Matthew Perry was not what caused his death. That's attributed to the ketamine queen. Did he help him in terms of the dependency and the addiction, and did he exceed the medical prescription? He certainly did. And 2 years is significant. There's a lot of mitigation here. He's trained at UCLA. I'm sure he did a lot of good in his medical practice and helped a lot of people. So we don't want to look at 2 years in federal prison and say, hey, that's nothing. Because at the end of the day, he's not the reason that Matthew Perry is dead. So I think that is a fair and just type of sentence.
A really good explanation, Michael. Thank you. We know that they were miles apart, the respective sides. The prosecution was asking for 3 years, Tommy, and the defense was asking for just a day in prison and probation. Your thoughts, please?
I think Michael's spot on with this one. You know, you've got to take a step back and look. It's not an implement, a death, but I agree with the judge. It kind of sent him on his way. But you know, I think lawyers, doctors, police officers, we're held to a higher standard. And I think that's what you're seeing too. And, you know, 2 years, even though, you know, we always laugh about federal prison being like the country club, 2 years is something. His reputation, his medical license, all of those things are probably the greater punishment. And so I think it was a fair punishment. Again, recognizing there's 6 individuals involved. And this shows what, you know, the prosecution does. These aren't the glamorous ones necessarily. It is because of who passed away, but that's tedious work. Think the work that went behind tracking this down, the investigators. And I think that's important too, to show you've got to send send the message, hopefully, to other doctors that would consider, you know, we saw it in the opioid crisis. People were giving that out like candy because they would make so much money on it. And I think this is a good chance to send a message. And I don't think if you worked like what you did with law school, you wouldn't want to give up all that and go to jail for 2 years. So I think Michael's spot on this.
Yes, really great points about sending a message to other people thinking that, oh, you want to get some fast cash? Well, look, you're going to lose your medical license, your practice, go off to prison. You both know federal prison's going to be tough, especially for a guy like this, you know, who presumably hasn't done a day anywhere, not even in county. Look out. So, Tommy, as you noted, this is the first of these 5 defendants who are all sentenced in connection to Matthew Perry's death. And so this is a network that prosecutors explained. Remember way back when they first announced the charges? Let's go back in time together.
This network included a live-in assistant, various go-betweens, 2 medical doctors, and a major source of drug supply known as, quote, the ketamine queen. These defendants took advantage of Mr. Perry's addiction issues to enrich themselves. They knew what they were doing was wrong. They knew what they were doing was risking great danger to Mr. Perry, but they did it anyways.
So 2 defendants in the case, including a woman known as the ketamine queen, this is her here, admitted to distributing the ketamine to Matthew Perry that killed him back in September of 2023. And in this past September, we saw a guilty plea from her. She's going to be sentenced next week. So, of course, we're going to be watching this closely. She's looking at a maximum of 65 years in prison. So how much time should the ketamine queen get with her sentence? Michael, going back to you, you made the distinction earlier that the doctor wasn't the one who supplied the drugs that killed Perry. She was. What do you think would be fair for her?
Yeah, she's the culprit here, Julian. You know, remember, going back to the doctor, ketamine is a legal prescription. It has a lot of valuable uses. Now you're dealing with the ketamine queen. And remember also in her situation, there's an allegation, I believe, where her sale of these illicit drugs actually caused the death of somebody else several years before. She is a drug dealer. That's what she does. She sells ketamine allegedly, illegally, on the street to kids and moms and dads and anybody who wants them. And she gets a huge profit. And she puts herself out there, you know, all over the internet and lives an extravagant lifestyle, all off of the proceeds of the illicit activity. And it resulted in the death of Matthew Perry. So I think if anybody's going to pay a significant price, she's the one who's going to pay that price.
Definitely, Michael. Well said. I hope the judge launches her. Tommy, what do you think? Is there an amount of years you think that would be appropriate?
You know, if they're doing federal sentencing, I always felt like that ended up being a little lighter than what we'd see on the state side. But, you know, we've actually struggled in South Carolina. You know, I'm in the legislature with fentanyl deaths. And it ties a little bit to the knowledge of, and it wasn't the knowledge that I knew it would kill you. If I pulled a gun, it was the knowledge that I knew I was giving you fentanyl because you knew how deadly it is. Now, I don't know as much about ketamine as far as death statistics and things of that nature. But again, Michael's going to give me an office at his place if I keep agreeing with him, you know. But I think
would be the dream team. Let me tell you.
I think he's right. And you know, with the feds, I mean, I think they treat it like a murder case. So if the feds give 20 or 30 or what they would give for a murder case, I think they need to treat it like that. And I think it's fair that the judge take into consideration the things Michael is talking about, the lifestyle, the profiting off of others. So it's really sending a bigger message than just this death. And again, we've had the same with the fentanyl thing. The secondary, we've had like more than one person die from the same dealer.
Yes.
I think that you know, the beauty is that, you know, you're not dealing with a jury, then you're dealing with the judge and sentencing, and he can decide or she can decide what to take into consideration. So I'm with you. I think we're going to see a significant departure from that, you know, 2.5 years we just saw.
Right. Excellent points, Tommy. Boy, you know, and I started thinking as you both were talking how much money this woman has made. I hope they seized all of it. I hope that they can do some good with that money and that it's taken away from her because putting profits over people is just appalling. appalling. And that's what all these people did here, you know. It's really, really, really disgusting. We'll leave it there for now. Again, the ketamine queen gets sentenced next week, and Court TV will be covering it. Tommy and Michael, thank you. Stand by. Still ahead for you here on Opening Statements. We're talking more about the case against Trinity Poague. We're asking what really happened to baby JD. We have a medical expert on the show next to talk about the toddler's injuries. Plus, testimony set to start up at the top of the hour in the murder trial for Brian Walsh. We'll go into the courtroom live, and guess what? The man his wife was having an affair with is possibly going to be on the stand this morning. Stay with us.
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
Who was Romeo Angeles?
It's my son. She gave him some Mountain Dew and like a Frito Dorito. It's Frito like the barbecue twisted chips.
Okay.
And he was sitting there eating them. She had him in her hands. It's like he's limp. I don't know what happened. So I threw the pizza, dropped it, and grabbed him and took off.
This morning, we're shining our spotlight on the 18-month-old boy at the center of the pageant queen murder trial. And we're talking about just how this baby might have died. Little baby JD was found unresponsive in the dorm room of the defendant, Trinity Poague. Now, Poague was in a relationship with baby JD's dad, Justin Williams. And we saw Williams testify that his son was fine when he left to go pick up a pizza. And then when he came back, the baby was limp and unresponsive. That was just a 30-minute window of time where something happened, according to Williams. So what killed this beautiful angel? Let's listen to what the ER physician who treated baby JD had to say.
I don't think there was a odd problem or chronic disease that killed him.
What killed him? What did he die from?
What killed him was the head trauma and the bleeding in the brain. There would have to be multiple impacts.
And when you say multiple impacts, what do you mean by impact?
Trauma or direct blow to those body parts.
Prosecutors in Georgia are alleging that this former pageant queen winner inflicted blunt force trauma to the baby's head and the baby's torso, resulting in fatal brain and organ damage. But how will they figure out when those injuries happened? Let's talk about this. Let's bring in Dr. Jason Smith. He's a traumatic brain injury expert trained in many areas of medicine. Doctor, good morning to you. Wonderful to have you back on the program. And I want to start with, what did you think when you heard what the ER doctor had to say?
Yeah, good morning, Julie. First off, I think the ER doctor is spot on with his assessment in saying there was definitely significant trauma involved in the murder of this poor child. In addition to that, I think there's a question of how that trauma kind of came about, because there's two pretty significant injuries. One is the liver laceration, and again, probably the fatal injury were the two skull fractures found.
Yes, and I want to talk to you about those things. So when we hear these little tidbits, like coming in through the testimony that, oh, there might have been a fall, you know, from a chair or from a bed, to get to skull fractures and a liver laceration, does that sound right to you, Dr. Jason?
Yeah, a lot of it, you're trying to recreate how this could have happened in your head as a physician, because as a physician, you are a designated reporter. So this is a child abuse case, obviously, and child harm obviously was done to the point of death. So when you hear that, there's two things in my mind that could have happened. So did the baby fall off of something, go belly first and lacerate the liver, and then go backwards and hit the back of the head? Or were they pushed into a chair and then came backwards off that chair and hit their head? So those are the best things that I could come up with my experience when it comes to traumatic injuries and trying to piece together the objective information that we have and do some sort of a subjective answer to that question.
Right, right, especially when we know we may not be getting any truthful statements from Ms. Poague. I have a clip for you, Doc. This is what the ER doctor testified to when he says he spoke to Ms. Poague at the hospital about the baby.
My recollection is that baby or the young child was not acting right, and she may have just shook him just a little bit to see what was wrong. She reported that the child was acting oddly. She shook his shoulders a little bit, and he was difficult to respond.
Dr. Smith, does the shoulder shaking statement make sense to you?
Absolutely not. I have 3 small children. I mean, I guess they're not really small. But at the same time, I wouldn't shake my kids. And these injuries that we're seeing with this child that led to his death, they're not coming from a baby being shaken.
Yeah, you have 3 beautiful kids. And this beautiful baby, it's so sad. He was healthy. He was well. Everything was good. Yet they're feeding him barbecue Fritos and Mountain Dew. That's a whole nother situation, right? There was reports about a little bit of blood in his stool, Dr. J, which, you know, kind of gives the defense team something to latch on to say, oh, is something going on internally that might indicate that something happened prior to the incident date that's in question. How concerning is the blood in the stool?
I think it's confusing, not necessarily concerning, Julie, because we don't know what we don't know in this case, and it leads to more questions. It leads to more questions of the care of the child leading up to the final fatal injury. It leads to the wellness of the child. Are they seeing regular well visits? Has there been internal hemorrhaging, internal trauma before, and this is another episode of abuse? Because there's no other way to see it other than abuse when it comes to blood. Or is there something going on where this child has a bleeding dyssynchrasy in which they have a bleeding disorder, which makes them more prone to bleed after an injury, which could have led to a death due to trauma as well?
This is such helpful insight you're giving us, Doc. I have another clip I want to play for you now. This is from the courtroom when the prosecutor asked the medical examiner what he thought baby JD's fatal injury was.
Do you have an opinion as to why this child died?
I felt it was due to abusive head trauma.
Do you have an opinion as to whether or not there was any significant time difference or time gap between the infliction of the trauma and the onset of symptoms and ultimately death?
And again, in my opinion, seconds to minutes after the trauma was occurred.
Dr. J, I would love to know if you have any opinions on how you think baby JD might have died.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with the medical examiner and the ER physician on this one. This is a head trauma case, cut and dry, especially the way that they describe the amount of edema and bruising upon arrival at the emergency department. This is something that happened acutely, meaning sometime that day. I'm not going to say minutes, hours, or trying to give it, but it had to be sometime in a reasonable amount of a few hours before that child presented to the emergency room non-responsive.
This is fascinating. Dr. J, kind of a follow-up on that point. If it is the traumatic brain injury that caused his death, can you say whether it was from a fall, an accidental fall, or from a deliberate blow?
I think that's the hardest question to answer, Julie, because we do not have witnesses. We do not have information that can give us clearer answers to that question. I think you can see it both ways, but the problem is that we're left with a lot of questions, and unfortunately, a small child has passed away because of these.
Yeah, you're so right. Dr. Jason Smith, traumatic brain injury expert and professor, so many things. You want to be an expert witness as well. You're so bright. Add that to your busy schedule when you have some time. Doc, thank you so much for coming on Opening Statements this morning.
My pleasure. Take care.
We'll see you soon. Coming up next, as we get ready to go live to Massachusetts for Brian Walsh's homicide case. Here's a live look, by the way. We're seeing the lovely ceiling fan there. We're talking about whether we think he's going to take the stand. And what about the beauty queen? What's she going to do? We'll discuss these 2 defendants and their next moves when we come back.
This is the Court TV podcast.
Now for what's tipping the scales, Brian Walsh and Trinity Poague, two names you've been hearing a lot of if you've been watching court TV lately. And while their trials are 1,300 miles apart, they share some similarities. Both are in high-profile cases right now. Both of them have very large, looming questions presented in their trials. And we're wondering the answer to the biggest question: should these two testify? And will they? You know, different answers perhaps. Should they? Will they? Let's tackle these questions with our legal eagles, attorneys Tommy Pope and Michael J. Brown. Speaking of high profile, I got you two this morning. All right, so let's start with the should they first, and then we'll go to the will they. All right, Tommy, starting with Brian Walsh, should he testify?
I think he's got nothing to lose. He's talked so darn much. I think he probably will. To, you know, again, I don't know, you know, with their strategy, we talked about it the other day, what's he got to lose now with this unique I cut up the body thing? Now, I don't know how convincing he could be that, you know, either I could go buy a bunch of stuff and some saws and things, or I could call 911. That's an interesting balance, you know, that he had there. And so I think there's a decent chance we will see him.
Appreciate it. Michael J. Brown. Brian Walsh, should he testify?
Well, Julia, I think Tommy's right on the mark. And I think what the defense did in this particular case, they kind of set up his testimony, because what they did is they admitted to certain things, the disposing of the body, not informing the police. And I think that's going to transition to him taking the stand and saying, hey, guys, I admitted to what I did wrong, but I'm not admitting to the murder because I didn't do it. And then he'll explain all these internet searches and the incident itself, and try to gain credibility because he admitted to certain crimes, but I'm not admitting to this because I am not guilty. So I think it set it up.
Yeah, appreciate it. I'm glad you mentioned the internet searches too, Michael. Let's take a listen back to some of what he searched.
How to dismember a body, Google search.
What is the date and time?
January 2nd, 2023, 12:27:43 p.m.
What is the title on page 730, record 2626?
Hacksaw, the best tool for dismembering a body. Can you be charged with murder without a body? Google search. Disposing of a body in the trash, Google search. Best divorce strategies for men, Yahoo search results. Best date to divorce for a man, Google search.
Oof. He's going to have a lot of explaining to do if he gets up there. Okay, now let's tackle the question of, will he get up there? Tommy, if you had to bet.
Yeah, I think, and again, Michael and I are going to hold hands, I guess. But I think that the strategy is there. He's got nothing to lose. I will tell you, as a prosecutor, I would love the opportunity. I mean, the biggest thing I'd worry about is boring the jury with redundancy. You know, so let me get straight. When you told them this, you were lying. When you told them that, you were lying. You know, you'd never get, you know, so, but we're supposed to believe you now. You know, I think I credit his defense, as I told you the other day, with coming up with this plea and this theory for what seemed to be almost a slam dunk from the prosecution side. So I think, as Michael just said, I think he'll have to play it on out, and he's got to deliver the final. And I think, again, what they're shooting for is a lesser sentence, because, you know, whether dismembered bodies or killing people, you know, that's pretty stout regardless, you know.
It really is. I love the point you made about the defense attorneys. I am loving that they are excellent. Larry Tipton and Kelly Porges, very seasoned trial attorneys, and from what I've heard from several colleagues, very well respected in the Boston area. So Brian Walsh is in great hands. I mean, they can only do so much, you know, because of the facts.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, they're working with it. Michael J. Brown, do you think this guy's going to get up there and testify?
I do, Julie. I do. I think they're going to have to wait. Obviously, they have not made that determination yet. They're going to see if they can extract those alternative explanations for those internet searches from other witnesses. I don't know if they're going to achieve that goal. It's going to be difficult. So I think at the end of the day, I think Walsh is going to have to get on that stand. He's going to have to sell his story, and he's going to, again, give these innocent explanations for a lot of those internet searches, but then there's some very damning ones which go actually to the murder, and he's going to have to address it, and he's the only one who can, and I think he will testify.
That's a really good point. Yeah, and I think he's arrogant enough to testify, too. I think he's just arrogant enough that he thinks he's smarter than everyone in the room. Yeah, okay. So let's turn to the beauty queen now. Should she testify? First question, Tommy.
I think in her case, and again, I hadn't seen much of her interacting, unlike our previous defendant, but I think that she probably needs to stand behind her right to remain silent and make the state prove it and stick with the reasonable doubt between she and the father. And I think that's their best angle. I think if she gets up, I mean, she's right for cross-examination with the text and things of that nature. And so I think she probably should not testify.
Should not. Michael J. Brown, what do you say?
All right, Tommy and I now in a divorce, because here's what I'm going to say, Julie.
An amicable one.
You'll hear from my lawyer.
I don't know if I can afford these lawyers out here. So what I'm going to say is, we went back to the earlier segment, which is there's only two people that are responsible for this murder. It's either the father or it's her. And the father did a pretty good job, and he showed he loves his kid, and that really went uncontroverted. And you have, in my opinion, these very, very damning statements and text messages that she made to her roommate. And the only way for anybody to kind of explain that is for her to take the stand. It's a dangerous situation because she's a young girl. She's 18 or 19, and she's not a seasoned police officer or detective. But I think really the only option she has is to take that stand.
Great points. What I would wonder about if I was her attorney, I would want to have a really honest conversation with her about, her pageant work and preparation for interviewing, because we know that's not easy. I mean, look, it's going to be really hard to get up in front of a crowd, a live audience and answer questions off the cuff. And we know testifying's a nerve-wracking experience. I kind of wonder how she feels, if she feels as confident as she looks in those videos. Okay, let's get a quick little prediction. So will we see it with the beauty queen? And friends at home, feel free to give us your predictions on social media. Tell us. Tommy, what do you say?
If her defense attorney explains it like I just heard it, she probably will. I think she's gonna, the best thing she could do is talk about the frustration, and that's why she did the text, not why she hurt the child. But we've all been frustrated when the baby won't quit crying or whatever the case may be, but change that to, that's why I was saying those things, that's not what I did.
Right. Maybe I said it, but I didn't mean it literally. Right. Michael, what do you think? You think she'll testify?
Yeah, she's taking that stand, Julie. She's been the center of attention. She loves taking the stage. She's been in this beauty pageant. And it seems like the murder, if she is the one who committed it, is actually because she wasn't being the focal point and the center of attention. So I think she will take it. She wants to take it. She thinks she's going to woo that jury. Prosecutor's going to have a field day. We're looking forward to that testimony.
Oh, definitely. Really solid predictions you guys are giving us. After this conversation, I'm thinking we're going to see two defendants taking the stand. I really do. I think as we talk through it, you think about, I mean, look, what's the alternative? They're in these positions, like you may roll the dice. They're in positions to explain. There's no one else who's going to be able to give contradictory testimony. She's the only one in the room. And we know that Anna Walsh, sadly, is no longer with us. Her lover is supposedly going to be on the stand today, maybe this morning. So we're going to be watching that together. What a great show this has been. Tommy, you're going to be staying with us for Court TV Live. We got you today at the network. We're so happy about that. Michael J. Brown, go win some cases. We got to let you go off to court. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you so very much. And thank you at home for being with us for opening statements this Thursday. If you like the show, watch it again. Tell your friends about it. We're here every weekday morning for you at 8 a.m. Eastern time to get you ready for trial. That's all for this episode of Opening Statements, my friends. I'm your host, Julie Grant, and it's been great being with you. On this show, I am calling out any pants on fire moments in our big trials and true crime stories, and I want you to come along with me. Opening Statements is live every weekday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern on Court TV. Thank you for downloading this episode. Please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. You can watch past shows anytime you like on CourtTV.com.